Hi and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this morning's webinar. I'm Patricia Kingston from Tourism NI. I'm sure most of you know me by now if you've been at any of our webinars to date. Today we're going to be looking at understanding your routes to market from connection right through to conversion. This is the first of our sales series sessions, so we'll very shortly be hearing from our expert speaker, Kate Taylor from Taylor Training, who again I'm sure a lot of you have met previously back in the olden days when we used to have events in a room all together. Kate will be answering some of your questions at the end, so be sure to pop any that you have into the question box in your control panel all throughout the session. We're absolutely delighted once again to be offering a limited number of short one-to-one calls with Kate following today's session as well. That's open to any NI-based tourism and hospitality industry registered to attend the session, so I'll be explaining a little bit more about that later on. As you know, the webinar has been delivered as part of Tourism NI's ongoing Tourism Enterprise Development Programme. We're working hard to deliver a programme that will continue to help the tourism industry survive and recover from what's been a really unique past year, and we're constantly reviewing and updating and evolving the programme based on your needs. So please do keep letting us know what it is that you need, and we'll do our very best to deliver that for you. As usual, you'll be receiving just a little evaluation link afterwards, so that's your opportunity to just let us know what else you'd like to see. Alongside the TED webinars, you can also access a whole range of support materials on tourismni.com and covid19.tourismni.com. So once again, I'll be chatting a little bit more about that later on. So I hope you enjoyed this morning's webinar. I know from some previous sessions we've had with Kate, it'll be packed full of useful information, and I'll be back at the end to ask Kate some of your questions. So do remember to pop those into the chat box all during the session. So now, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Kate, and we'll get started with the main presentation. Are you there, Kate? Hi, good morning.
I am here. How are you, Patricia? Good to see you.
Great. Lovely to see you, even though it's through a computer screen this morning, but hopefully we'll see each other in real life again very, very soon. I'll hand over to you, Kate, and I'll chat to you again at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And a hugely warm welcome to everyone. It's very hard, as you all obviously know, and especially in our industry, we've just been hit so hard. I'm not going to dwell on the negative today, not at all in the slightest. What we're going to do is we're going to just get really positive, really strategic, and say, okay, how do we get this done? How do we manage things through the next few months while we're still on lockdown, or next few weeks? And then how do we kind of scenario build for afterwards? This is, as Patricia said, it is part of a series, so there's not an awful lot we can cover in an hour or less than an hour. But so it will be sort of top tips, little things that I've learned with dealing with my direct clients over the last few months. And really, not textbooky. I don't like that. I know a lot of you have seen the registration list, and a lot of you know me. It's not going to be heavy or textbooky. It's going to be, right, what are things that we need to do to stay positive and stay strategic and just to get back on track. So, understanding your routes to market from connection to conversion. Interestingly enough, and on the email that went out for this, it was from connection to conversation. There was a typo in it, probably my fault, or autocorrect or something. But it's actually exactly what we need to do. So we need to first connect, and then we need to start that conversation, and we need to keep that conversation going. That's what all of this is about. It's a partnership. It's an ongoing conversation. It's two people, like the people, you say, is it B2B sales, business to business? Is it B2C, business to consumer? I just see it all as P2P, person to person. So just keep defaulting back to that, okay, at all of this. Okay, so when you're in front of somebody, it's easier to connect. It's more important, so much more important, when you're doing this by telephone, by email, by Zoom, by Team, by all of the other platforms, Skype. that it's all about the connection and that conversation. So let's get started. So the first thing was, why are we even talking about this during lockdown? I know some of my clients or ex-clients have kind of defaulted back to, what's the point? The point is, you need to stay on their radar in terms of your private consumers, direct clients, and your third parties, so your online tour operators, third-party websites, that kind of thing. We're going to go through all of this through this webinar. But you need to first put your destination on their radar. Okay, so I'm seeing some people doing this really, really well at the moment. So, talk about your whole destination, the whole appeal. People are not going to come to your destination just to sleep in a bed in a lovely room or go on one tour. So you're selling the destination first. So you need to stay front of mind, and we're competing against all of those other destinations in the world that are doing this at the moment. So we're doing that now, so we're building for later. You're putting your business on their radar, obviously. You need to stay upfront and personal, as it were, with them, and make sure that not only when they decide to come to your destination, that you're top of their list, whether you're an activity, you're an accommodation provider, you're a site. You need to make sure that you're on their list. Okay, so you're building the expectation, you're building the FOMO, the fear of missing out, as the young folks say. So the very first thing you need to do, and anyone who's been to any one of my workshops or seen any of my webinars, know that you always start with, who is your market? Okay, so think about that now. Just pause for a second, think about your business, and think about who is your core market, the number one. Okay, so what age group are they? What demographic are they? What job are they in? Where are they coming from? At the moment, obviously, our main focus is domestic. Okay, so we're at the moment looking domestic, and then we need to scenario plan for our international customers going forward and default back to that. At the moment, the main thing for the domestic market, it's all about friends, family, people traveling with their children. Okay, so if any of you haven't actually sort of tweaked your business into this sort of that family and children's market, then you really need to start thinking about that very clearly. So you just drill down and really figure out who exactly is your core market. So at the moment, obviously, it's local, it's the Republic of Ireland, and it's Northern Ireland that you're looking at. Okay, so what's interesting actually, so as you can tell by my accent, I'm not Northern Irish, but I'm living in Kinsale. But down here, when we say domestic, we include Northern Ireland in that definition. Whereas it's interesting when I work an awful lot, and I've worked with Tourism Northern Ireland now for at least 3 years, and pretty much full time up there. And you include just your local counties. Okay, so you need to start thinking more broadly. Really, really important. Okay, so first of all, think, okay, the mind, get into the mindset of the person that you want to attract and who will be attracted, if that makes sense. Okay, so flip it and kind of say, right, and you don't say, right, I'm selling something, so I'm just going to try and push it. You think, okay, who will be most attracted to what I'm selling? And then, and only then, can you start describing it in a way that will attract them even more and a bigger group of people. Then, because we're talking more locally rather than the international market, we're talking about what sorts of breaks, so what sorts of trips will they likely to be going on. So you have your day trips, and obviously that's very local. Your short breaks, 1 or 2 days when we can actually accommodate people again, and then their annual holiday, which obviously is a biggie. People maybe in a few months' time still won't be able to travel abroad, but they'll already be doing the research as to what sort of short breaks and annual holidays they can take here in this country. So that's really, really important to get your head around now in terms of making it something special, pushing it from the short break to the big holiday and making them really look forward to something very, very special. So the key things when you're doing this, and what's really come out of the research from just during this whole lockdown period, is people just really want to reunite. That's an obvious one. All of you have the urge to do that, reuniting with grandparents, with grown children, and friends, family, extended family. It's just you really need to instill this in your messaging. Really important that you're putting together packages and ideas that it's all about this sort of reuniting families and loved ones and friends. Also then, if you go into the bottom left, reassurance. This is massive, okay, in terms of the whole COVID-19 thing. And again, I'm not going to harp on about it too much, but going forward, they need to feel safe. They need to know in advance that if they come to your venue, if they engage with your activity, even months down the line, years down the line, I mean, this has changed our whole landscape. Okay, it will not be the same again after this. They have to know that you've really done everything that you can to value their safety. The next one there in the middle is reward. People have had a tough time. They really have. So there really is a feeling of them having to treat themselves. And feel special and treat others. And again, if you're instilling this into your messaging, it's really what needs to come across at the moment. And the research is showing this, okay? Next one is freedom, obviously, because we're all indoors. As you can see, I'm in my kitchen, home office at the moment. Would love to get out, and I'm planning trips for later in the year. So just that feeling of, so maybe the imagery or videography, that sort of thing, just to prove to me how great it's going to be to travel to where you are and to engage with you. A big thing that comes out of this type of crisis, if I can use that word, is that people go back to the village. They go back to a sense of community, needing to reconnect, needing to really belong. And again, if you can get that into your messaging, into your images and that sort of thing, that will really win through. It appeals to people at the moment. But most of all, it's just people just want to have fun. It's just we've been missing out, all of us. So we need to go back to that. So you need to check, and we'll go through all of this in a lot more detail during the rest of the presentation. But yes, you're all running businesses, but don't get too commercial, don't get too corporate or businessy with your wording on your website, on your wording on your newsletters or emails or social media. Have fun with it. That's what we're all wanting at the moment. So that's just so, so important. So now we get in a little bit more detail into, so how do we communicate it? So just as I was saying, it just so personal, handcrafted, as in, I'm just thinking the other day, and this is sort of an ad hoc example. A friend of mine was going for an interview or she was writing a cover letter to apply for a job in a special needs school. And it was all corporate-y, all the thing, and she was asking me to look over it. And so I rang her and I said, well, why? Why do you want to do this? And she just said, oh, I just absolutely, it's my passion. I just love it. There's nothing else in the world that I'd rather do. So I said, well, stop right there, write that down, put that in the letter. Okay, so that's what you guys need to do, is on your website, especially on the homepage, tell people why you're passionate about what you're doing. That's what comes across. Don't go corporate-y. Just so what's different and why you love doing it. But keep it short. Okay, on to point number 2 there on the screen. The faster you can get the point across, the better. So one line, 2 lines, passionate, but clear and concise. If you start to ramble on, people get bored these days. People are so used to scrolling through their Facebook feeds and everything, they just scroll past something if there's too much text in it. So the shorter the text, the better, whether we're talking on your website or whether we're talking on your Facebook page, short, concise, and personal. Don't drop the jargon, okay? So in our industry, especially, there's a lot of jargon that we all use between us, but the consumers don't. Okay, they don't want to be saying all these, 3-letter anagrams and that kind of thing. They just don't. FIT and APR and all the rest of it. They don't want to see all of that, and then that depersonalizes it as soon as you start using that. Okay, so drop all of that. Obviously, when you're talking to a tour operator, then you use those, but certainly not on any other platform. So when we're talking about creating the fear of missing out, you need to make your offering sound really exclusive. And when I say exclusive, I mean really, what is it about you as an individual in terms of your experience or your contacts, or the way you communicate? What is it about you that really makes you stand out? Or about your property, what is that one thing? Because if you think about it, somebody's coming to your area, they've already decided to come to your area, to a destination. There's so many places to stay. There's so many things to do, and they have a limited time and a limited budget. So you need to think, well, what is it about me that one thing that's best? And that's what you communicate first. Okay, so that's your headline. It doesn't mean you don't put any other information in below it, obviously. So you say, this is what I'm best at. And by the way, these are all the other things I can do as well. Okay, so you really need to make sure you do that. So anyone who's watching, if you're taking notes now, I'm sending through worksheets later, and this will be on them. So, and there'll be templates as to how to actually figure those out if you haven't already figured them out. Also, as Patricia mentioned, there's one-to-one coaching sessions where I can go through those. So, but before the session, can I please urge you to have thought through a lot of these things? They're short sessions, so we really need to get to the point very quickly. And I will play devil's advocate. I will quiz you, and we will get to it. But have pre-thought it, please. So a massive thing is building credibility. So that's point number 5 here on the screen. So when I say credibility, it's like this is social proof that you're going to deliver what you're promising on your website, on your email, on your newsletter, on your phone call, whatever it was. So this is through testimonials, it's through data case studies, video testimonials are even better than written ones. And if you've got written ones, put a little a photograph and obviously the name of the person who's given it. But don't just make bold statements like, We are the best ever. Okay, because everyone says that. Prove it. Prove it through your LinkedIn endorsements. Prove it through, you know, take a photograph of a card somebody sent in as a thank you. It's all about, so we're fearful these days, obviously, in terms of, you know, our businesses are in trouble and all the rest of it, some of our businesses. Think about the customer. They're also fearful. They're spending money that they haven't necessarily earned very much of over the last few months, and they're spending it with you, or they're planning and researching to spend it with you. So it's your responsibility to make sure you remove that fear from them, and that you make them feel comfortable and safe to book with you. Okay, obviously you have your cancellation policies and that kind of thing, because you know that will also ease that fear. And as I said before, you always use your own voice. Okay, so don't cut and paste from a template. Be you. Just be you, and exude the passion that you have for your business. And I know so many of you, and I know you're passionate, and I know your businesses are absolutely amazing. And we've got so much here in Northern Ireland to sell and to attract people. So we just all, as a unit and individually, need to really keep enthusing about it. So let's get back into their heads again. So what do they want? And this is always, it has to be the starting point. Okay, get into their heads. So obviously it's experiences. We forget that sometimes in our businesses or our individual businesses, that, you know, we're selling beds or meals or pints or sandwiches or tours. We forget that somebody comes to our area for the whole experience. Okay, so for example, if we're a hotel or a guest house or a B&B, people aren't going to come to sleep in that bed. They're going to come to do a hiking tour, or to go surfing, or to have a self-guided or either a guided tour. They're going to come to do a cooking workshop or a demonstration, and anything like. That's why I want to go to your area. Okay, so if you're an accommodation provider, please focus on what there is in the surrounding area. Now, we've run workshops, and a lot of you have been to my workshops about building that saleable experience, or epic moments, as others call it. But just please keep defaulting back to that, because that's what they're going for. Okay, so yes, they'll be delighted what you have to offer as well as part of that, but it's the whole, it's encompassing the whole thing that you need to keep remembering. So, what are you selling? What you're actually selling is, if you think about it, think about all of your online platforms, your face-to-face interactions, or these days online Zoom interactions. Go back to think about it like you're running a market stall in your local town, and how do you think you could attract people who are passing? You know, you're selling cabbages or whatever, and there's 10 other stalls also selling cabbages. How do you stand out? And that's the key. It's the standing out. And it's the what are you actually selling? Okay, so go back to, what is your real clear product offering? As in, what are you really selling? They need to know. If any little bit of confusion, people will buy from somebody else. So it's the clarity that is the really important thing for removing that fear, removing that doubt and going to somebody else. So really define that exactly what you're offering. No vagueness at all. Works here. Clear display, again back to the market stall analogy. So how are you displaying it? How are you showing your wares, as it were? Are you using really amazing imagery and videos and so what can happen is we're quite comfortable in terms of what we're offering, and we assume others know how great it is, but they don't, because they either haven't been here at all, or they haven't been here for a while, or they don't know what your latest package is or your latest menu is. So we need to really display that fully and openly. Also, the branding. Branding is so important. Do you think Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all the biggies, it's as soon as I've mentioned those words, you visualize those two logos. You did. You visualized Coca-Cola and the Pepsi logos in your head, even if you didn't want to, because it's the branding, it's the logo, it's the repetition. Okay, so that's so important that you stick with that. So even on social media posts, on every page of your website, a clear brand. If you don't have one, they're not expensive to have drawn up, by a local company or a student or somebody who's a bit tech savvy in your organization. Get something interesting and attractive drawn up, but then use it everywhere. Okay, really important. Business cards everywhere. And your company uniforms, if that's appropriate, if you're giving your walking tours and that kind of thing, fleeces, t-shirts, hats, badges, use it throughout, because that's what people remember subconsciously mainly, and that's a very, very important part of sales. So that's subconscious repetition. And obviously your pricing has to be really, really clear. I mean, the amount of clients that I have that, I've had to go back to and, try and figure out what the real price is. So I'm not going to commit to buying something from you if I think I'm going to be stung afterwards, if you know what I mean. And that's not in a bad way. It's just that, again, I just need to know. Okay, so just to clarify those is that, first of all, can you define your business in one line, almost a memory hook, a one-line memory hook? Can you tell me what you're selling in one line? So they're two different things. So it's your business, one line. The second line then is what you're actually going to be selling me. Then you need to tell me, you need to show me visually, wow, just amazing, this is great, I want to be there. And have you shown me social proof? So again, the social proof is the testimonials, the endorsements on your LinkedIn page, if it's a personal business. Just prove to me that I'm going to get what you're promising that you're selling me. So now we turn to more the tour operator side of things, or the third party side of things, which a lot of you are doing, but some of you might need to do a bit more clearly. So this is an example, and I've borrowed this, as it were, from a Fulch Island website presentation that I was working on recently, and it just shows a detail. Again, you're going to get this, you can print this out. We'd recommend you did and add your own notes to it. But if you're sending in pricing details and experience details to a tour operator, this is pretty much exactly the way you should be doing it. So if the title of the experience, so they can list it in their brochure or their website or whatever very, very clearly, a very short description, but again, catchy, and showing exactly what it is. And you'll notice as well on the short description bit, there's the description, but then underneath the inclusions. So people, when they get these through, they'll scan them. So the inclusions are really important. So that inclusions might be, free parking, or tea and coffee, or 1 hour's demonstration, a cookery demonstration. So that's really important. So you have the wordy bit, and then you have almost like your bullet points of what's included, so they can pick it out very easily. So minimum, maximum people that can go on it. Obviously, with tour operators, they're selling it on, so they need to know the duration, obviously, and then the pricing. So what I would always do is include the retail price, so they know, the tour operator knows what discount they're getting, because obviously they expect it. Okay, they expect a discount. Having said that, it has to make business sense for you. You don't want to lose your shirt on this. There's no point in getting out of bed in the morning if you're not going to make money, unless it's for PR or some other reason. Always go back to what's in this for them, but also what's in this for me. I'm running a business. I love what I'm doing, but I need to make money. And something that we're not covering on this webinar, but something you really need to look at, and we could cover on your individual calls, is do you know your break-even point? Do you know exactly how many people you need on a tour, or how many people you need in your restaurant on a given night to break even? And that's obviously the bare minimum, and then you work from there, and that's your whole pricing and profitability structure comes from there. So that's really, really important. And again, I can go back over that, with you individually, if you need me to. So now we're talking about where we're selling. Okay, so we're now clear on who our market is. We're clear on what we're selling and the pricing of it. Now we're talking about where. So obviously it's very, very different environments at the moment with your direct and indirect. Okay, so obviously you can't go to the likes of Meet the Buyer one-to-one, and there will be another webinar on online Meet the Buyer type experiences. So I won't go into great detail on that. But very, very important that you pre-prepare, okay? So exactly as you would, as if you were meeting somebody, in their office, so you're calling to them, or they were calling to you, or exactly the same. Okay, so it's all about the preparation and the summarizing things in one sentence so you can sell it well. So obviously direct, at the moment, direct is really kind of includes your website sales. Now, this is T and I have a whole separate program that I recorded for them, all about search engine optimization. And if I may just have a little tangent on this, this is massive, just massive. In our industry, people are spectacularly bad at search engine optimization, but it's the most important thing for your business. Because if you think about it, a tourist, a visitor, even a local, are trying to find out information about what to see, where to eat, what to do. Where do they go? They go to Google. And most of us aren't actually showing up for the correct key phrases on Google because we haven't optimized ourselves correctly for that. So if you haven't, you really, please, I urge you to get onto that, because people are starting to visit locally, or they will do in the next few weeks, but they're also getting inspiration for where they want to go in the summer. As I mentioned before, I'm planning now about when I'm released from my house, where can I go? What can I do? Something fun. Where can I meet my friends? I'm Googling it now but most of you aren't actually showing up for the phrases that I'm putting into Google. So please, please look into that. And again, I can talk to you about that on your one-to-one call if you'd like to, because I've done a whole series on that. And it's actually not that scary. We've been told that it's this big mystical scary thing, but it really, really isn't. It's very, very simple. I can talk you through that. Obviously, sales phone calls, it sounds a little outdated, but these days it's really, really important for you to go back through your database of key clients and just pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone and say, how are you getting on? How's your business? How's your life? How's your family? Connecting. It's all about connecting and staying connected and keeping that conversation going, because that's what leads to business at the end of the day. People buy off people they like. So be likable, connect with them. So email marketing, again, seems a little outdated, but these days it still works. It has to be concise, it has to be specific, and it has to really have a very catchy header and first few lines. Otherwise, obviously, it's just going to go to spam or it's going to be deleted. Social media. Obviously, Facebook is the main one still. I mean, I have 4 children. They laugh at me when I mention Facebook because they think it's so outdated and I'm a dinosaur, obviously, according to them. But it is still the go-to for our market and for most of our demographic. So we're talking about people sort of 35 years and up. It's still Facebook. You're still waking in the morning and the first thing you do is scroll through your Facebook feed. So that's where you need to be and get into, if you don't know about it, then research, go onto YouTube and look up remarketing, retargeting. You don't have to pay a fortune for these things. And the thing about Facebook is that why I love it is it's so targeted. You can be so specific as to who you're reaching. So it goes back to, do you know who you want to reach? Then these choices become very, very clear. So it's market, message, media. Actually, if you write that down, I'm sounding very school teachery now. Market, message, media. Okay, so the first thing you need to do I know exactly who my market is, how they think, how they buy, how they research, where they research? Okay, so that's your market. Then your message, well, what do I want to tell them? And then your media. I'll use my own example here. So I live in Kinsale. Sun always shines in Kinsale, except for today, it's raining. So Kinsale has a very, very clear route to market. Very clear. We did the research years ago. We said, well, who, first of all, the first starting point was, who is our market? And we did research. We talked to the 6 hotels in the town and surrounding areas, and we asked them to analyse who stayed with them. And we realised that 80% came from Dublin. And then we broke that down a little bit further and we said, okay, well, 80% of that came from D4. So that's, if you don't know, Dublin is the wealthier areas of Dublin where all the embassies and the lovely houses are. And then we said, okay, well, now we know exactly who we're talking to. So that's our market. So now we know what the message has to be, because we were thinking about, do we change the word gourmet to, foodie or something like that? And we thought, no, because these people that we're talking to like the word gourmet. So we stuck with that. Then onto media, we thought, okay, well, now we know where they hang out online. We know what radio stations they listen to. We know what newspapers they read and which weekend supplements to put adverts in, who to interview, what celebrities to use for our voiceovers for radio adverts. It becomes very, very clear when you get that specific, and that's what each one of you needs to do. Get very, very specific, and that can seem a little scary, because you think if you're really narrowing your focus, you think you're putting other people off, but actually you're not. You're becoming far more relevant to the people that you're actually trying to target. So that's the key, is really focusing and being the best you can be for that specific target market. So, sorry, we're off on a bit of a tangent there, but I think it's hugely, hugely relevant. So that's the Facebook. Instagram, massive, obviously. Everything's so visual. That's the second place. That's where the slightly younger demographic is hanging out far more than on Facebook. Twitter, we had an interesting question in advance of the webinar about Twitter. I'm not going to go into detail about that because I'll deal with that individually with the person that asked the question about how do we use Twitter, because it's very specific. It's an odd one, as it were, and it's not my favourite. But I need to speak to you individually if it's something that you like to do and it's somewhere that you like to hang out. So then they're the direct at the moment. Indirect then are obviously our third-party websites. So tour operators, the likes of bookings.com. If you're on bookings.com, please look at the changes in the regulations about things like rate parity and that kind of thing that have happened over the last year. Rate parity does not exist anymore, so any accommodation providers, please look into that or ask me directly about that, because, you know, yes, use the likes of bookings.com and Trivago and the rest of them for your international, for people who are Googling internationally or even nationally. But then there are ways then to sort of, I'm trying to think of the right word to use, or to kind of poach that business, as it were. So use them as search engines, basically, is what I'm saying. But I won't go any further into that because this is being recorded. And obviously then referrals, massive. What you need to remember is you need to have a strategic approach to referrals. They don't happen by accident. Everyone else is going on with their own lives. They forget about you. They've had a lovely experience, the most amazing time. They go back to their own life. If somebody has emailed you saying thank you, or has said something on checkout that's amazing, just say to them, is there anybody else that you know, or are there any other businesses like yours that would benefit from this, who would like this? You know, please let them know. Here's a few extra business cards, or who, you know, if you refer, 5 people, I'd be delighted to welcome you back for a free stay for your family, or something like that. So give an incentive, but it's not even about the incentive. It's about just reminding people. And this happened to me recently, actually, in my business, which is, training and consultancy and this kind of thing. And I have a brother-in-law who's working for a big multinational company, and I just never thought of him. In terms, I just thought, well, if he knew of people that were interested in what I'm offering, he'd obviously have told them, but he hadn't, because he hadn't thought of it. So I rang him up and he said, yeah. And he introduced 3 people to me within that week. So, you need to be proactive and strategic in terms of referrals. And that's a massive, word of mouth referrals is massive in our industry, especially if you're doing things like wedding business. Word of mouth is right up there as the number one. So you need to know, and I've said this a few times about that one sentence, and it might sound like I'm harping on about it. If you can't describe your business in one sentence, then how do you expect somebody else to? Yeah. So really make sure you hone that and then give that to people in terms of, please, could you recommend me to other people, but tell them this. And then it's very clear for them, how to introduce their contacts and colleagues to you. Very strong imagery. And you can see I put the very in caps. It doesn't have to be your own. If you do have some budget, I would recommend you spend it there. in terms of hiring a professional photographer and getting strong imagery. People in the imagery is always better, because I can see a lovely landscape, but I can't imagine myself necessarily there. But if I see people that are like me, a couple, a family, an older person, somebody like me, then I can imagine myself there, and I'm already that little bit further down the road to buying. So that's so important. If you don't have the budget to have your own imagery done, then go online. There's lots of stock photography about all of your areas, and specifically for your products as well, online, either for a very small fee or for no fee at all. So use them. It's hugely important across the board. Having said that, there's a little caveat. For Facebook and for Instagram, well, Instagram you should use really high quality. Facebook, use your phone and take, it's a selfie of yourself, or it's a little small video of your chef, a kind of a shaky video of them explaining what the dish of the day is. On Facebook, that tends to engage more, that more personal, it tends to keep people in touch with you and get to know you as a real person, rather than this sort of, this selfie celebrity version of yourself that a lot of people are putting out. So that's really, so it's that balance. So it's understanding the different platforms and understanding what engages on different platforms, and test and try. If something doesn't work, pull that, try something different. You actually, I haven't mentioned it on here, but you all need to be, familiar with Facebook Insights to see where your Facebook leads are coming from, who's engaging, what kind of things they're looking for, what pages they're landing on. So that's Facebook Insights, and also Google Analytics. So if you don't know about Google Analytics, either ask me on your private call or YouTube it. YouTube University, as I call it. There's just put in basic tutorial on Google Analytics and watch it and pause it and go onto your Google Analytics, and you can learn so much that way. But that's really, really important, that you're tracking what's working and what isn't. So I've shown you the grid as well, about defining your experiences on a grid. Really important. Even if you're not going through indirect, routes like tour operators, it can be a very, very useful process just to summarize it for yourself. And if you have team members, to share it with them, so everybody knows, everyone's on the same wavelength, and everyone's like, okay, this is exactly what we're selling and how. And also, what I'd always recommend to all of my clients is always have a basic or standard offering, and then always have a premium or VIP offering. There are always people that will pay extra for something extra if it's worth it. So make sure you're adding extra things, and it could be, double, triple the price, but there's always people willing to go for that chauffeur service and that caviar experience. To always have that, even if nobody buys it. And this is an interesting one in terms of the whole pricing thing, and we're not covering pricing specifically in this workshop. But if I would normally have 3, that's the recommendation, is having 3 price brackets. So you have your basic, and then you have your, well, not basic, but your standard. Then you have your VIP extra super duper package. And then you have your discount, which is for groups or for certain times of the week or times of the day or months of the year, but only if it suits you, only discount if it suits you, okay? But what that does, it makes that standard offer seem good value, okay? Because it puts it in perspective of everything else. And so that's why you need to have the various price brackets, okay? Not just have a tenner ahead and that's that. even if that's what you want to charge at the end of the day. Okay, doke. So obviously, in past workshops, we've focused a lot on the international market because, you know, that's a growing market, and we're, you know, tourism Northern Ireland, we're doing a lot of investing in encouraging people to visit. But at the moment, and over the next few months, we need to see, well, who's our domestic. And I would encourage you, again, as I said at the beginning, to include ROI, Republic of Ireland, in your domestic market thinking, just psychologically, just include it. Even though we can't travel that far at the moment, you just have to include them. So how do we adapt? So we need to look at what we're offering at the moment, and then we adapt them, okay? So the messages, the key messages are freedom. So once people are allowed, they really are going to want to. So really, you know, embed that in your messaging and even in the headlines of it. Also reuniting, as I've said, in terms of extended family, groups of friends that might be in other places in the country. Give them reasons to want to reunite and do what you're offering, or stay where you're, you know, providing accommodation, or eat where you're feeding them, as it were. But use that word reunite in it, because this is all from the research. This has been shown that will be a really, really key thing, and very fast once it all opens up again. And people are starting to, you know, save up already to do these kind of things. Inspiring landscapes, again, you're selling the destination with people in it rather than just what you're selling. So really you need to open up. A lot of you, I've looked at, I have the list of who's attending today, and I've looked on all of your websites. So you need to expand that, please, because I want to go to your area, and then I'll focus in on where I'm staying or what I'm doing. But it might sound contradictory. I then want to know you. I want to know exactly what your recommendation is, what the local gem is, what, you know, I don't want to read a guidebook and do what I think every other tourist has done or every other visitor has done. I would feel like I've done something different. So help me with that. Tell me that either on the phone or on Facebook. Like Facebook is great for that. It's great for getting out there, taking a little video saying, this is my favorite thing, or this is where I once came and sat with my mother and she told me this story. I thought, really, you can get very personal with it on Facebook, and then I feel something and I connect with you and I want to go to where you are. But obviously I don't want it to be all hugely emotional either at the same time. I want to have fun. I want to treat myself, because I feel like things have been so, you know, neglected, and, you know, I've not been able to treat myself. So add in those as well, little added extras, anything you can think of. And you need to be writing these down as I'm going through it. But most importantly, in terms of the reopening, is you need to show me that it's safe. You need to prove to me that for my first trip, after I open my front door and head out and have my first holiday to treat myself and have fun and reunite with everybody, that it's going to be safe. And so, you know, so there's that balance you need to have it on your website. But that balance between being, you know, scaring people and being all sort of doom and gloom, all about COVID, and the balance of reassuring people that it's safe. A good case study for people to look at, go to the Blue Haven collection in Kinsale on their website and their Facebook page. They have really good videos on there. And we actually partnered in Kinsale with the global pandemic expert in Australia to help us reopen after the first lockdown, and he advised on all of these things. So really, if you want to sort of engage with how to do that, go onto the Kinsale page, so I can advise you directly. And when I say global pandemic expert, he used to work for the WHO, and it's actually my brother. So if anyone wants an introduction, he's probably the best you can get for that. So need to. We're nearly done with time, so I'm gonna speed things up a bit. So what are you selling domestically? So what you need to do is, again, it always reverts to who is it you're selling to and what are the experiences, not the products. You're all selling products, obviously, whether they're services or real items, but it's the experience. How are you going to make me feel? Okay, so you've all looked at this in terms of the international market. Re-look at all of them, go through your different products, your different experiences, and re-engineer them for the Irish market and the Northern Irish market. So things like, you know, if you've been pushing sort of Irish hospitality, obviously that's of no appeal to me because I live in Ireland. Okay, so I want something different. So if you've included make an Irish coffee, I know how to make an Irish coffee. Okay, so remove that, replace it with something else that is more appealing to your home market. It's all about reshaping and repositioning. Okay, so when I'm saying reshaping, it's what I was just saying there in terms of, you know, take your existing ones. You don't have to reinvent. You don't have to make up new experiences or product offerings, but you just tweak them so that they are more relevant to our domestic market. And it's just about getting yourself into that mindset. And if you can't, if you're too, some of us are too close to it to be able to do that, just ask somebody else. Ask a family member, ask a friend, say, okay, what would appeal more to you? How could I word this differently? What could I add? What could I subtract to be able to discount it slightly? And then repositioning. So positioning is basically positioning it in the perception of your customer. Okay, so it's your responsibility to position each experience. So it's either this is high-end luxury, or it's family, great value, but you need to do that, and you need to make very sure that that's very, very clear. So an example of this might be, so you might have done sort of a brown bread, and again, I've borrowed this from the Fall China presentation, that it might be sort of traditionally sold to global markets, something like the brown bread making experience, and that just appeals hugely to the international market. But there's no reason why somebody from the island of Ireland wouldn't like that as well. It could be something like, you know, let's get back to our roots. Let's get back to baking like our granny did. Let's create memories with family members and with other, you know, with a group of people. Let's learn that the whole millennium Gen Z kind of market, they love to be inspired by learning. So that might be a good way to do it. So so it's the same experience, but you're just giving it a different angle. Sorry, lost you there. Okay, so sorry, lost you there for a minute. So what should we highlight? Again, scenery and fresh air. Ireland, even for our own local market, people are stuck inside. Okay, so as they're planning, this is a massive one. Okay, so it's all about this big open landscapes, the learning and having fun, the understanding where food comes from. Food is sexy at the moment. It has been for a number of years, but really people, sustainability, locality, seasonality, massive. Keep going with that. I know a lot of you already are, but keep going with it. And even if food isn't your main core business, push that. So again, the reassurance on our website, they mentioned about the COVID-19. Again, don't go all negative, but things like, what are the maximum numbers? What are the schedules in terms of staggering people, safety measures and sanitation, that kind of thing, and how often you clean things, that sort of things. Video and imagery, again, proof. It's all about the proof. And cancellation policies, we don't know what's going to happen over the next few months. So you need to reassure people, yes, please book now, but you can cancel if you have to, or you'll be looked after. So something like, but again, word it in a very personal, nice way. So that I've just made this up. So here at Lovely Guest House, nice name, we'd like to assure you that we've been working very hard to welcome you back, so that together we can create new memories. As always, the health and safety of you and our team are so important to us. And with this in mind, then you list the rest of the procedures and policies. So I've said, just to remind you, so once you know your market, it's all about your social media. You don't have to use all of them. You really don't. People think that because there are all of these different channels out there, you have to use all of them. You don't. You don't have the time. You don't have the headspace, the energy to use all, or the knowledge, maybe, to use all of them. So pick one or two. Use your own website, and I would say one primary core social media platform. So either Instagram or Facebook, probably. And then manage, again, your partner websites, and they have to be managed. So again, pick and choose who you're partnering with. Don't just sign up to everybody who happens to, call you up and say, do you want to register for my website? Because you're going to have to manage the pictures, the content, the relationship. So again, be as focused as you possibly can. So just to finish up, remember, contact them now. Okay, we don't know when things are going to open up, but it's all about keeping the relationship, as we said. So contact them now. Pick up today. It's always, Tony Robbins has a great one where he says, don't leave the position of a decision without actually acting on it. Okay, so before you get up from your desk today, make that phone call, send an email, print off a list, do something before you leave this call, before you log off and move on for the rest of your day. And I know you're all very busy, but do something, okay? Contact somebody today. And it's just psychologically for yourself, it's just so motivating to do that, because then you're staying on their radar. Again, the message throughout all of this has been reinventing, for now, the domestic market, and for future international sales. So I call it scenario planning. So do both. Okay, so I'll be sending through workshops later, workbooks later, worksheets. And so it's thinking about what your existing things are in terms of domestic, and then when things open up, what the variation will be. So the minute something happens, you can switch, and keep it personal. Just be yourself, be nice. You're all offering amazing, brilliant products, but I, as the consumer, want to know you. I want to know why meeting you will be an amazing experience, how I can connect with you, and just will enjoy my time. So thank you very much, and thank you for everyone engaging. So Patricia, are you there?
Hi, still here. Thank you so much, Kate. So much really useful information there as always, and lots for everybody to take in. I suppose just a reminder for everyone who's joining us today, as always, we're going to be sharing a recording of today's session with you all to review at your leisure, and we'll also be sharing those useful worksheets that Kate referred to during the session, so you can watch back again and have a go at those in your own time. I'll also be sharing a couple of your questions with Kate very shortly, so if you do have a question and you haven't popped it into the the chat yet, there's a little question section in the control panel on your webinar there. So do feel free to pop a couple of questions in there if you have anything that's cropped up today, and we can get through as many of those as we can this morning. Just before we get stuck in, I'm going to do a couple of very quick polls just to get a feel for how everyone's been finding this morning so far. So the first one should pop up on your screen there any minute now, and it's just, how would you rate today's session in terms of the content and relevance to your business? So that's with 1 being not relevant at all and 5 being extremely relevant. Just give you guys a second to fill that in. Apologies if anyone can hear the dog. It's bin day today, so the dog has decided to have a bit of a bark downstairs. So the joys of working from home. The second question, I'll have another little poll pop up here. Do you plan to take any action within your business as a direct result of what you've heard from Kate today? So that's just an easy one, yes or no. It's a great help, and also gives us a chance to make sure you're all still with us. You haven't wandered off, and you're still here. And this feedback is just so important. Make sure we're delivering the topics that you need and we're on the right track. So also, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be sending an evaluation out later on, and once again, if you can take an opportunity to fill that in when you have a minute, it means then we can use your feedback to sort of influence the rest of the program going forward. So I think we'll go ahead and get started on a couple of questions here. Kate, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm just yeah, I was just reading through the questions that have come in. So there's a few questions. So Nuala, how are you doing? I know you well. Yeah, nice to virtually be in contact with you. So your question was about, so you're a tour operator, and I know your business well, and you're offering obviously a variety of products to a variety of different customers. So yes, I've said be very specific. The key thing for you really, Nuala, is your search engine optimization. And I can talk through this directly with you. I see you've requested a one-to-one with me. So you can, the more specific you are, so you need to research the phrases that are relevant to each individual different market. So you don't contradict and you don't confuse. So that when people search, they go directly to that page that's most relevant to them. Okay, it's a very easy thing to do. I can talk you through it, and I can send you on a presentation and a document I have about it. Very, very easy to do. And then when they click in, you said about the images as well to use, then it means that you can adapt each individual page to that exact market. So to that, you include the type of people that look like that demographic, the type of region or the type of experience that you think that they'll want to engage in. So, and that's really the best way to do that. And it also means then that when you're calling somebody, one of your indirect clients, you then send them the link to that exact page. You don't send them the home page link. So that's really is the way to do that. And I can go through more detail on that, you know, when we chat in person.
I'll just jump in there just on the imagery. I know, Kate, you'd mentioned obviously imagery is so important, and we all know that, and not everybody has a whole suite of their own images. And I suppose it's just a reminder for everyone, we do have a Tourism NI media library. Now it's actually sort of been relaunched as a content pool. So if anyone did have maybe an account or a registration on the old media library, you can sign up for a new content pool, and it's really easy. It's a very simple registration process, and it means then you have a whole access to images that our team have procured and got taken, that we have the rights, that you guys can use those without worrying. So obviously there can be copyright issues with images, and you do have to be careful, but it's a whole suite of images from across Northern Ireland and different elements that people can make use of. So it's really easy to find. If you literally just go into Google and Google Tourism NI Media Library, it should come up as the top page, or certainly in the top option or the top option or two there. Head onto that page and it gives you all the information about how to sign up for that. But equally well, I think I'll maybe just I'll include a little link to that as well for all of you guys, because those images are just so useful and they're completely free as well. So it's some good free resources for everybody too.
Yeah, good. Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with using a stock image either, of something like Think Stock, Shutterstock. If you're a restaurant and you want a close-up of a plate, and you don't want to, of something that looks a lot like the Irish stew that you make, or whatever it is, or a pint of Guinness, or whatever, then there's nothing wrong with using those kind of close-up shots, or a family having fun in a boat, if you somewhere near a river. Do you know what I mean? And to mix them up. So, and actually also the images, it's really interesting in terms of just psychologically people looking at your website and just your mix of Facebook feed, to have, wider landscape images, as well as people images, as well as close-up food, drink, experience images. So really just keep mixing it up, rather than just going for all just lovely, pretty mountains, again and again. So, it just keeps people interested.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got a tour guide here as well, who are hoping, fingers crossed, to maybe be able to start some tours again by April. But obviously, with lockdown and there's so much uncertainty at the minute, we can't confirm or predict that just at the minute. So they've been keeping their online marketing quite general, just trying to remind customers that they're still here. So suppose, can you, or should they consider starting to promote April on the hope that they can, or should they not be too specific? Or Kate, what would you recommend in that sort of scenario?
I would recommend absolutely 100% start selling now, but be very, very clear. So I've covered a couple of those points. That first of all, be very, very clear on your post-COVID opening guidelines, so that they feel safe. Your cancellation policies, just in case, God forbid, things do extend past those dates. But absolutely, and offer incentives for them to book early. Everyone loves an incentive, not even not a discount necessarily. I'm not a fan of discounting, but added value. So free tea and coffee, or a longer tour, or a free guidebook, something like that, to incentivize them to book early. But again, it's the reassurance. Are you still there?
Oh, you're back again. Sorry, you just froze on my screen for a second there. Go ahead.
So did you hear all of that? I don't know. I just really.
Yeah, it's Barry here. Yeah, Kate, we heard you okay. I think it must have been on your side.
Sorry, apologies, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. No, that's great. Everyone's being a little bit quieter on the questions today. I think they're all holding their fire to have that one-to-one chat with you, Kate.
I'll have a very busy few days.
I have a suspicion that's going to be the case. I know obviously you mentioned the worksheets earlier, and just a reminder that we'll pop those on the previous webinar page alongside the recording from today. Kate, I know you always love to give a bit of homework. Is there a key important piece of homework that people should do? For you
they'll be getting homework. Don't you worry about that. You know me, I'm very, very school teachery. Yeah, the main thing, as I said, is before, and this will sound very kind of dictatorial now, but literally before you log off properly from this, and before you go back to your phone or your family or from your computer, just sit down and write a few notes. Define your core market. Write that one sentence that I keep coming back to. What is your business? What is your main product offering? Not in a corporate-y, businessy way, but in a, this is what I love to do, and this is why I'm so delighted to be selling it to you. So if that's the only thing you can manage today, then I really, really encourage you to do that.
Yeah,
but
I am
as
still
I say, loads more homework on the worksheet.
frozen. Sorry, Kate. I'm still here. My camera's just frozen in case you think I've disappeared. So I thought I'd turn it off there. No, that's absolutely great. We do have a question in here just on advice on search engine optimization as it is quite a daunting thing. Maybe that would be one for one-to-one, Kate, or
yes, absolutely. And I have recorded a full training course on SEO for Tourism Northern Ireland. So we can look into that and need to find out how that's being shared at the moment. Yes, you say it can be daunting, Patricia. It's actually really easy, and I don't say that in a kind of a patronising way, but then we've been told over the years it's highly complicated and highly difficult. But really what it is there's two parts mainly. It's finding out what people are searching for. So that's through keyword research, and I can show you how to do that. There's several tools online where you can find out what things relevant to your business are people actually searching for. Then you take those and you put them in 6 places on your website. 3 at the front, as in what customers can see, and 3 at the back, so in your system. And that's it. You wait 3 weeks and you'll start showing up if you do it correctly. So it really is as simple as that, but you need to find the right keywords. That really is the key, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. No, that's super. I think that's really the end of the questions so far. But guys, we've still got a couple of minutes, so if you do pop anything in there, I'll try and pick it up before the end. But as we've mentioned a few times now, we're going to have Kate's very kindly offering to do some one-to-one follow-up calls with you guys. Open to any NI-based tourism and hospitality businesses. So these will take really the form of sort of a 15 or 20 minute advice session via phone. And it will be to sort of address one specific question for your business. You know, wouldn't be enough time to kind of drill down into an entire kind of, strategy and business plan, but certainly Kate will be really happy to kind of chat through area, especially of something that's been covered today that you'd really like to just delve into a little bit deeper. So if you would like to request that, just drop your name, your company, and your question along with a contact telephone number and send that to me. So if you send that to just industry.development@tourismni.com, then I'll be able to pick that email up for you, and I'll pass your details on to Kate for her to be able to give you a wee call back. So there is limited capacity. We only have 1 Kate, and we could well have I suspect we're going to have quite a few inquiries, but we'll do our absolute best to accommodate as many of you as we can. So we'll try to accommodate everyone if we can, but just a little caveat that we do have limited capacity, so it might not necessarily be all in the next day or 2. So we'll do what we can to accommodate those. Just a reminder as well, we do have lots of resources on covid19.tourismni.com. If you head there and click on our support centre, we've got recordings and support materials from all of our previous TED webinars which we've delivered so far, and also lots of other useful information and things relating to COVID and what the up-to-date regulations are and things. So it's always worth keeping an eye on that, because the team behind the scenes are always working to keep that as up to date as possible. So just keep an eye regularly on that. We're going to aim to get the recording from today up as soon as we possibly can, so you can watch this back. And also a couple of other TED webinars are open for registration on our people series, and we're always releasing new dates. We're hopefully going to be doing another session actually, which should appear in the next day or 2, just an update on Brexit and all things Brexit as well, which there's a lot of appetite for, so keep an eye out for that one. So yeah, just keep an eye on the website, and I think really all that remains is for me to just thank you very much, Kate. Thanks for all those insights today, and I think you might be busy on the phones. I
love this, as you know, I love it. So I'm more than happy to engage with as many as you will allow.
That's absolutely super. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again the next time. Thanks, Kate, and thanks everyone for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Cheerio.